This video is a little bit about me, a little bit about you, and a little bit about the world we live in. So I had an old injury flare this past week, a pretty painful one. And this is one that, although it's improved quite a bit because of lifestyle changes, it still comes up at least 3 times a year, and it just kind of takes me out. Often when I'm on a really amazing roll. And I firmly believe that our minds and our bodies are linked. So if we can clear up emotional obstacles, our physical healing can be a lot more efficient. So as such, I was journaling and seeing what would come up, especially with self-sabotage. I was doing a lot of fill-in-the-blank prompts and checking in with myself at different ages. And what wound up coming up was, as a child, I always felt like I was on display as a showpiece, in particular for my abusive parent. Any talents or hobbies I had a knack for, it was used for glory. And I couldn't just be and enjoy myself, whatever I was doing. And I found that there was a ton of anger coming up around this. It was presenting as burning pain. And as I kept journaling, what else came up was that I didn't want them to appear as though they had done a good job parenting through my success or thriving. I didn't want to give them any credit. I wanted my abusive parent to be exposed. But, as is the case for many of us, I couldn't safely tell anyone. So what a smart option. If my body is failing, he couldn't possibly receive any glory or praise because of me. So my amazing body figured out a loophole to try to expose him. And sadly, it was through a form of self-sabotage. But this pattern still shows up, and I'm really glad to be consciously aware of it now so that I can choose something different and I can change. But it occurred to me that I've seen this pattern so often in clients and friends and family members of this some sort of self-sabotage post-abuse, especially childhood abuse, but also in relationships. And I believe there is something to this cry for help. This way for our bodies to unmask our abusers through suffering and self-sabotage. And I don't think that it always manifests as disease or pain. I think that's pretty common. But I've seen it manifest as poor choices in impulsivity control, addiction and substance abuse, and often just a general lack of self-care. So I wanted to put a voice to this for anyone who it may resonate with, and just as an idea to check in with yourself about where this self-sabotage may be showing up in your life and why it's there. And this is a really excellent way for our brain to have figured out how to have a voice when it didn't feel safe to have one. But now hopefully you are out of that situation like I am, and that masking isn't actually necessary any longer for our survival. You're free. Now your mind and body just need to believe it. Now in regards to the world around us, I think it contributes heavily to the problem because there's a lot of doubt and suspicion when it comes to victims coming forward. Suffering is usually what's looked for as evidence of abuse. Now, if we let go of the suffering, then there's fear that we're not going to be believed. So somewhere in our minds, in an effort to make sure we are believed and receive the support we need when we were being abused, we keep the suffering switch turned on, even though we're not still in that situation. And society approves of this when it comes to proof of abuse, so it can become a vicious cycle. But then we have a very poor quality of life, and then there's disapproval for that. And really, it's like we're still allowing ourselves to be abused and still allowing ourselves to be controlled by our abuser. I hope that makes you angry. it made me really angry. And it made me feel very determined to change this pattern. So I hope that it does the same for you. So then how do we change it? Well, the first step is awareness, which hopefully is starting to come up for you now. And the second step is really to validate all of those emotions that are coming up. If they're slow coming up, and that's normal, you can try a writing prompt with your dominant hand and then respond with your non-dominant hand, and this taps into the emotion side of your brain. You can also look at a photo of yourself from that time in your life and imagine that child or that person expressing their feelings, and then you write or you say what they needed to hear. I also think EFT can be very valuable for this sort of thing. Let me know if you want me to create content specific to diffusing this self-sabotage pattern. Now, the third step is creating a new healthy pattern. You now have the honor of being the healthy parent or partner. So you need to give yourself what you need and consistently show up for yourself. And this is where it does take some work. You make those good choices that you know will support physical recovery, and your consistency will build trust with the inner self that is sabotaging you. When that part of you starts to feel safe, true progress in emotional and physical healing can begin. I hope you found this helpful. Please feel free to share in the comments what's coming up for you, if it feels correct for you to do that. And I hope that you have a peaceful day.